The great arena of Zephyria Prime stretched across 10 kilometers of polished crystal, its transparent walls reaching toward the purple sky like monuments to galactic superiority. Representatives from 47 different species filled the floating observation platforms, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and telepathic hums that vibrated through the arena's atmosphere. Ambassador Krell 9 of the Hegemony Council adjusted his ceremonial robes and gazed down at the arena floor with satisfaction. Today marked the 500th anniversary of the Galactic Combat Trials, where the greatest warriors from across known space demonstrated their species' martial prowess. For 5 centuries, the trials had served as both entertainment and a practical measure of each civilization's military potential. The rankings remain unchanged, announced Krell 9 through the Universal Translator Network. The Vorthan Empire maintains first position, followed by the Crystal Communes of Andromeda, then the Hive Collectives of Sector 7. In the VIP section, General Thane of the Vorthan Empire preened his metallic scales with obvious pride. His species had dominated the trials for over 300 years, and their current champion, Warrior Prime Zexhai, had never lost a single combat in 15 years of competition. Zexhai stood in the center of the arena, a magnificent specimen of Vorthon evolution. Standing 4 meters tall, his body combined the best aspects of reptilian strength and insectoid agility. Razor-sharp claws extended from his 6 arms, each capable of slicing through battle steel. His exoskeleton gleamed with biometallic plating that could deflect energy weapons, and his compound eyes could track movement across multiple spectrums simultaneously. Today we welcome 3 new challengers, Krell 9 continued, his voice carrying across the arena. First, from the recently contacted Terran Federation, we have... Let me check the documentation. A representative of their arachnid class. Confused murmurs rippled through the audience. Ambassador Krell 9 squinted at his datapad, certain there must be an error in translation. A spider? Squeaked Ambassador Plix from the Gelatin Collectives, her translucent body wobbling with what might have been laughter. Surely this is some form of joke. General Thane's scaled features twisted into what served as a Vordan grin. The humans grow more amusing by the cycle. Do they truly believe an 8-legged crawler can challenge our greatest warrior? Dr. Sarah Chen, the sole human representative present, stood quietly in the diplomatic section. She had tried to explain the selection process to the Galactic Council, but the universal translators seemed incapable of conveying the complexity of Earth's biodiversity classification systems. When the Council had requested Earth's finest warrior, the selection committee had interpreted this quite literally. The creature measures approximately 2 centimeters in length, Krell 9 announced, consulting his notes with growing bewilderment. It possesses 8 locomotion appendages and appears to construct geometric web patterns. Its species designation is Portia fimbriata. The laughter started slowly, a few chuckles from the aquatic depth lords, then spread like wildfire through the observation platforms. Soon, the entire arena echoed with the sounds of 47 different species expressing amusement in their native ways. 2 centimeters, wheezed Ambassador Girth, whose massive bulk shook with each guffaw. Our younglings are larger than that. Warrior Prime Zexhai raised 2 of his arms for attention. When silence fell, he spoke in the universal tongue, his voice carrying the authority of countless victories. I do not wish to dishonor myself by crushing something so insignificant. Perhaps the humans have made an error. Dr. Chen stepped forward to the communication platform. There has been no error. The selection was made according to your stated criteria. You requested our finest warrior, capable of tactical thinking, stealth, and adaptability. I assure you, Portia meets all requirements. The spider in question sat motionless in a specially designed habitat module at the arena's edge. To the casual observer, it appeared unremarkable, brown and tan coloring, with the familiar eight-legged body plan common to its taxonomic order. It had arrived in a simple terrarium containing a few twigs and leaves, along with what appeared to be miniature prey items. Tactical thinking? General Thane's scales rattled with mirth. What tactics could such a primitive creature possibly possess? Dr. Chen's expression remained neutral. Perhaps you'll discover that during the trial. Krell 9 consulted his ceremonial timepiece. Very well. If the humans insist on proceeding with this exhibition, we shall honor their request. However, given the obvious size disparity, we must modify the arena parameters. The crystal floor began to shift and reconfigure itself. Platforms rose and fell, creating a complex three-dimensional environment filled with obstacles, hiding places, and varying terrain types. What had been a simple fighting pit transformed into an elaborate maze of crystal formations, each one perfectly sized to accommodate combatants ranging from microscopic to massive. The trial will commence in standard configuration, Krell 9 announced. Victory is achieved through incapacitation or surrender of the opponent. Lethal force is prohibited. Several species began placing wagers on how quickly HFY would end the contest. The betting pools favored a resolution within seconds, with some optimistic souls wagering it might last as long as a full minute. HFY stalked across the arena floor, his claws clicking against the crystal surface. Each step demonstrated perfect predatory grace, the result of millions of years of evolutionary refinement combined with decades of combat training. He had faced opponents that breathed fire, others that could phase through solid matter, and several that existed partially outside normal space-time. A small arthropod from a backwater planet hardly seemed worth his attention. "Begin release sequence," Krell 9 commanded. The terrarium's transport chamber descended into the arena. As it opened, the tiny spider emerged onto the crystal surface. For several seconds, it remained motionless, possibly overwhelmed by the sudden change in environment. The audience held its collective breath, waiting for the inevitable. Then Portia began to move. The spider's first action surprised everyone. Instead of fleeing or freezing in terror at the sight of HFY, it began a systematic exploration of its surroundings. It moved with deliberate purpose, testing surfaces with its legs, investigating the crystal formations, and mapping the three-dimensional space with methodical precision. "Curious behavior for prey," observed Commander Flux of the Mechanical Hegemony. "Most creatures would attempt immediate escape when confronted with such a size differential." HFY watched with growing irritation as the spider continued its exploration, apparently ignoring his presence entirely. This was not the response he expected from an opponent, no matter how insignificant. "Does it not recognize a predator when it sees one?" he muttered, taking a step closer. The spider immediately froze. For a moment, HFY thought it had finally registered the threat. But instead of panic, the creature's behavior shifted into something unexpected. It began to move in a precise geometric pattern, creating what appeared to be the foundation of a web structure using the crystal formations as anchor points. "It's building a trap," Dr. Chen said quietly into her communicator, though her words were picked up by the universal translators and broadcast to the arena. "A trap?" General Thane's laughter boomed across the observation platforms. "What possible trap could threaten Warrior Prime HFY?" HFY decided to end the exhibition quickly. He approached the spider's position with measured steps, intending to simply hover a claw above it and force a surrender. As he drew near, the spider's movements became more rapid and complex. What happened next would be debated in xenobiological circles for years to come. The spider suddenly launched itself through the air, not toward safety, but directly at HFY's head. The Vorthon warrior instinctively swatted at the tiny projectile, but his claw passed through empty space. The spider had somehow calculated the exact trajectory needed to avoid the counterattack while maintaining its approach vector. It landed precisely on Zexhi's left eye cluster and immediately began spinning silk at a rate that seemed impossible given its size. Within seconds, a sticky web covered several of the warrior's compound visual sensors, effectively blinding him on that side. "What sorcery is this?" Zexhi roared, attempting to brush the spider away with his claws. But each time he reached for it, the creature had already moved to a different location, continuing to obstruct his vision with precisely placed webbing. The audience fell silent, stunned by this unexpected turn of events. A creature weighing less than a gram had somehow gained tactical advantage over a warrior who had never known defeat. "The spider demonstrates remarkable spatial awareness," observed Dr. Keth of the Scientific Coalition, her multiple brain stalks focused intently on the arena below. "Its movements suggest computational ability far exceeding normal arthropod parameters." Zexhi attempted to grab the spider with multiple arms simultaneously, but the creature seemed to anticipate each move. It would dart away from one grasping claw only to attack from an unexpected angle, always staying just out of reach while continuing to impair the warrior's sensory capabilities. "This is impossible," General Thane hissed. "A primitive spider cannot outmaneuver our greatest warrior." Dr. Chen allowed herself a small smile. "Portia fimbriata is anything but primitive. Your universal translators are having difficulty with our classification systems, but this species represents one of Earth's most sophisticated predators." As if responding to her words, the spider executed a maneuver that left the entire arena speechless. Using its web lines as a complex pulley system, it swung between the crystal formations like an acrobat, approaching Zexhi from above. The warrior, partially blinded and disoriented, failed to track the attack until the spider landed directly on his primary visual array. In moments, the creature had woven an intricate pattern of silk across Zexhi's main eyes, reducing his vision to a fraction of normal capacity. The Vorthon warrior stumbled, swinging blindly as the spider continued its relentless assault on his sensory systems. "How is such a small creature producing so much silk?" demanded Ambassador Vex of the mineral communes. "Portia species are jumping spiders," Dr. Chen explained. "They don't rely on traditional web hunting like most arachnids. They're active predators with exceptional cognitive abilities. What you're witnessing is pure strategic thinking in action." The spider's next move demonstrated the truth of her words. Instead of continuing its visual assault, it suddenly changed tactics. Using the web lines it had already established, it began creating a complex three-dimensional structure around Zexhi's legs. The warrior, focused on clearing his vision, didn't notice the trap being constructed beneath him until it was too late. With surgical precision, the spider attached silk lines to key points on Zexhi's exoskeleton, then used the crystal formations as leverage points. When the warrior took his next step, the carefully positioned web lines pulled tight, causing him to lose balance and crash to the arena floor. The sound of Zexhi's fall echoed through the silent arena. For the first time in 15 years, the undefeated champion lay prone on the crystal surface, struggling against silk bonds that, despite their microscopic thickness, held him as effectively as quantum restraints. Ambassador Krell 9 stared at his chronometer in disbelief. The engagement has lasted 4 minutes and 37 seconds. The spider perched on a crystal formation near Zexhi's head, motionless except for the barely visible movements of its chelicerae. To most observers, it appeared to be doing nothing. Dr. Chen knew better. "Portia is analyzing the situation," she announced, "determining whether additional restraint is necessary or if the trial objective has been achieved." Zexhi struggled against the silk bonds, his pride wounded more than his body. Despite his immense strength, the web construction was positioned to redirect his force rather than break under pressure. The harder he pulled, the tighter the restraints became. I cannot break free," he admitted, his voice heavy with disbelief. The arena erupted. 47 species began talking at once, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony that the universal translators couldn't process. Some demanded immediate medical analysis of the spider, certain it must be cybernetically enhanced. Others insisted on reviewing the arena's sensor data for evidence of human technological interference. "Order!" Krell 9's amplified voice cut through the chaos. "The trial parameters have been met. Warrior Prime Zexhai has been incapacitated and has acknowledged his inability to continue. According to all established protocols, victory goes to the Earth Spider." The announcement triggered a fresh wave of confusion and debate. General Thane's scales had turned a sickly green color that indicated extreme distress among his species. "This cannot stand. There must be some explanation." Dr. Chen approached the communication platform again, her expression carefully neutral. "Ambassador Krell 9, I believe this demonstrates the danger of underestimating any species based on apparent physical limitations. Portia's victory was achieved through superior tactical analysis, adaptive problem-solving, and precise execution, the same qualities your trials are designed to measure." As the spider was carefully retrieved from the arena and Zexhai was freed from his silk bonds, the implications of what had just occurred began to settle over the assembled representatives. A creature from a supposedly primitive planet had defeated the galaxy's greatest warrior using nothing but intelligence, strategy, and the tools evolution had provided. The ranking boards began to flicker as computers struggled to process the new data. For the first time in 5 centuries, the established order of the galactic combat trials faced a complete upheaval. And in her terrarium, Portia Fimbriata settled down to groom her legs, apparently unaware that she had just redefined the galaxy's understanding of what it meant to be a warrior. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened 6 hours after Portia's victory, with representatives arriving from across the galaxy via quantum tunnel and hyperspace jump. The Great Chamber of Zephyria Prime had never hosted such an urgent gathering, and the tension in the recycled atmosphere was thick enough to taste. Ambassador Krell 9 stood at the central podium, his usually pristine robes wrinkled from stress, and his ceremonial jewelry clicking nervously as he moved. "Fellow beings, we face an unprecedented situation. The combat rankings that have remained stable for 3 centuries have been disrupted." "Disrupted?" General Thane's voice carried a dangerous edge as his scales shifted through angry color patterns. "A creature the size of a dust particle has made a mockery of our entire military assessment system." Dr. Sarah Chen sat in the newly assigned Earth delegation section, watching the chaos unfold with careful attention. Since Portia's victory, she had fielded hundreds of questions about Earth's military capabilities, all based on the assumption that the spider represented standard human warfare technology. The reality was both simpler and more complex than anyone in the galaxy was prepared to understand. "The immediate concern," interrupted Commander Flux, his mechanical voice cutting through the biological chatter, "is the accuracy of our threat assessments. If a random arthropod from Earth can defeat our strongest warrior, what does this suggest about human military potential?" Dr. Chen activated her translation array. "Honored delegates, I believe there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about what you witnessed today." "Indeed there has," shouted Ambassador Vex, his mineral form resonating with indignation. "We witnessed the impossible. No natural creature could possess such tactical sophistication." "You're absolutely correct," Dr. Chen replied calmly. "No creature possesses such abilities through random chance. Portia fimbriata represents 4 billion years of evolutionary refinement, specialized for exactly the type of combat you witnessed. The chamber erupted in confused babble. Dr. Keth of the Scientific Coalition activated her neural interface and projected a holographic display above the assembly. Accessing Galactic database on Terran biology. Searching. Error. Insufficient data. Earth biological complexity exceeds standard classification parameters. That's precisely the issue, Dr. Chen continued. Your assessment protocols assume technological advancement equals military capability. Earth took a different evolutionary path. Ambassador Krell 9 consulted his datapad with increasing frustration. Our surveys indicated that humans achieved spaceflight only recently. Primitive combustion rockets, basic electronic systems, no evidence of energy weapons or dimensional manipulation technology. All accurate, Dr. Chen confirmed. But you evaluated us based on your own developmental patterns. Most species in this galaxy appear to have achieved intelligence through social cooperation or technological augmentation. Earth produced intelligence through biological warfare. The phrase sent ripples of confusion through the universal translators. Several representatives requested clarification of the term biological warfare, which had no direct equivalent in their languages. General Thane leaned forward, his compound eyes focusing intently on Dr. Chen. Explain this concept. How does biology become warfare? Dr. Chen stood and activated her personal holographic projector. Images of Earth's biosphere appeared above the assembly. Forests, oceans, and skies teeming with countless life forms. Earth hosts an estimated 8 million distinct species, all competing for the same basic resources across limited territory. For 4 billion years, life on our planet has been engaged in constant evolutionary arms races. The hologram zoomed in to show a predator pursuing prey through dense vegetation. Every creature on Earth is either predator, prey, or both. Survival requires constant innovation in hunting strategies, defensive mechanisms, and adaptive behavior. What you call intelligence, we call Tuesday afternoon in any ecosystem. Ambassador Plix's gelatinous form quivered with what might have been nervousness. You mean to say that all Earth life forms possess tactical capabilities? To varying degrees, yes. Portia's species specialized in hunting other intelligent predators. They developed problem-solving abilities specifically to defeat creatures that could learn and adapt to their attacks. Commander Flux processed this information with mechanical precision. Clarification required. Are humans also products of this competitive evolution? Dr. Chen nodded grimly. Humans survived by becoming Earth's apex persistence predators. We evolved intelligence primarily to track, outmaneuver, and exhaust large prey across vast distances. Our ancestors could pursue animals for days until the target collapsed from exhaustion. Persistence hunting, Dr. Keth whispered, her brain stalks writhing with fascination. Psychological warfare through relentless pursuit. The prey knows it's being hunted but cannot escape. And that's just one human adaptation, Dr. Chen continued. We also developed complex social structures for cooperative hunting, tool creation for environmental manipulation, and pattern recognition for predicting behavior. Every skill that makes us effective diplomats and traders originally evolved for hunting. The assembly fell silent as the implications sank in. Ambassador Krell 9 was the first to voice what everyone was thinking. If a tiny spider can defeat our greatest warrior, and humans are apex predators from the same environment, you're beginning to understand, Dr. Chen said softly. Earth didn't just produce one exceptional predator. It produced 8 million of them, all competing against each other for 4 billion years. Humanity survived by learning to defeat them all. General Thane's scales had shifted to deep purple, a color indicating extreme concern among his species. This explains the human diplomatic behavior. You negotiate like predators, always patient, always probing for weakness, always ready to adapt your strategy. We prefer to think of it as being thorough, Dr. Chen replied, diplomatically. A new voice entered the discussion as Supreme Arbiter Zexthul materialized via quantum projection from the galactic core. His energy form pulsed with ancient authority as he addressed the assembly. The question before us is not how this occurred, but what it means for galactic stability. The chamber's attention focused on the supreme authority figure, a being so old that he had witnessed the formation of several of the galaxy's major civilizations. The combat trials were established to maintain peace through transparent strength assessment, Zexthul continued. If our evaluations were fundamentally flawed, then our entire balance of power may be built on false assumptions. Honored Arbiter, Dr. Chen interrupted respectfully. With your permission, I'd like to suggest that your evaluations weren't flawed, they were simply incomplete. Elaborate, Zexthul commanded. Dr. Chen gestured to her holographic display, which now showed a complex diagram of galactic species development patterns. Every civilization in this galaxy evolved intelligence to solve problems of social cooperation, technological advancement, or environmental adaptation. You developed evaluation criteria based on these patterns. And Earth represents a different pattern entirely, Dr. Keth interjected, her scientific curiosity overcoming diplomatic protocol. Intelligence developed through competitive predation rather than cooperative problem-solving. Precisely, Dr. Chen confirmed. Your trials measure individual combat capability, technological enhancement, and strategic planning. But they assume these abilities were developed for conflict with similar species. Earth's creatures evolved to fight completely different types of opponents with completely different capabilities. She manipulated the hologram to show footage of Portia's hunting behavior in its natural environment. Jumping spiders like Portia routinely defeat prey much larger than themselves by using three-dimensional tactics, misdirection, and psychological manipulation. They've been perfecting these techniques for millions of years. Psychological manipulation? Ambassador Girth's massive bulk shifted nervously. A spider practices psychological warfare. Absolutely. Portia species study their prey's behavior patterns, then exploit psychological weaknesses. They'll deliberately reveal themselves to make the target jump in a predictable direction, or use visual cues to trigger specific defensive responses that leave the prey vulnerable to attack. General Thane's claws extended unconsciously as he processed this information. You're saying the spider deliberately allowed me to see it building the web? Almost certainly. Portia wanted Zexhi focused on the visible construction, so he wouldn't notice the structural engineering happening near his feet. Classic misdirection tactics. The implications hit the assembly like a quantum shockwave. If a creature weighing less than a gram could manipulate the psychology of a trained warrior, what could larger, more intelligent Earth predators accomplish? How many species on Earth possess such capabilities? Supreme Arbiter Zexthul asked. Dr. Chen consulted her datapad, though she already knew the answer. At last count, approximately 4 million predator species, each specialized for different types of hunting, plus another 3 million that use predatory tactics for defense or territorial control. 7 million warrior species, Commander Flux calculated with mechanical precision, on a single planet. And that's not counting parasites, parasitoids, or species that practice chemical warfare, Dr. Chen added helpfully. Ambassador Vex's mineral structure began resonating at frequencies that indicated severe stress. Chemical warfare? Your planet practices chemical warfare? Oh, yes. Venoms, toxins, pheromone manipulation, acid production, explosive reactions. Earth chemistry is quite diverse. Many plants, for example, produce compounds specifically designed to interfere with animal nervous systems. The plants are also warriors? Ambassador Plix squeaked. Everything on Earth is a warrior. Dr. Chen replied. "It's the only way to survive there." Supreme Arbiter Zexthul pulsed with what might have been admiration or terror. "And humans mastered this environment?" "We didn't master it," Dr. Chen corrected. "We joined it. Humans are just one more predator species in an ecosystem full of them. We survived by becoming very, very good at learning how other predators think." The silence that followed was broken only by the nervous sounds of 47 species contemplating a completely new understanding of warfare. Everything they thought they knew about military strategy had been developed to fight opponents who thought like them, used technology like them, and shared similar evolutionary backgrounds. Earth represented something entirely different, a planet where intelligence itself was a weapon, evolved through 4 billion years of biological arms races between creatures that shared no common assumptions about how conflict should be conducted. "What do you recommend?" Zexthul asked finally. Dr. Chen stood and faced the assembly with the same patient confidence that her species had used to hunt mammoths across ice sheets and track antelope across savannas. "I recommend that we start over. Your combat trials are an excellent system for evaluating species that developed warfare through technological advancement. But they can't accurately assess species that developed warfare through biological competition." "You're proposing new trial parameters?" Ambassador Krell 9 asked nervously. "I'm proposing that we acknowledge different types of strength," Dr. Chen replied. "Your current system is like evaluating swimmers by testing their ability to climb trees. Technically possible, but you'll get misleading results." General Thane leaned back in his restraints, his scales shifting through thoughtful colors. "What would Earth-appropriate trials look like?" Dr. Chen smiled with the expression that had once made saber-toothed cats nervous. "Would you like to find out? Because Portia is just one representative of Earth's smaller predators. We brought others." The modified arena floor gleamed under Zephyria Prime's triple suns as representatives from across the galaxy gathered for what the media had dubbed the Earth Trials. 3 days had passed since Dr. Chen's revelation about the other specimens, and the anticipation was thick enough to measure with standard atmospheric sensors. Ambassador Krell 9 stood at his podium, looking like he hadn't slept since Portia's victory. His ceremonial robes bore the wrinkles of constant stress, and his usually confident demeanor had been replaced by nervous energy that infected everyone around him. "Before we proceed," Krell 9 announced, "I must emphasize that these demonstrations are entirely voluntary. The human delegation has agreed to showcase additional Earth specimens to help us understand their planet's evolutionary paradigm." Dr. Sarah Chen sat calmly in the Earth delegation section, flanked by 3 additional transport containers that had arrived via emergency diplomatic courier. Each terrarium bore simple labels in human script: mantis shrimp, octopus, and honeybee. The galactic representatives had insisted on detailed scans of each container, convinced they must contain hidden weapons or technological enhancements. All scans had returned the same impossible result: purely biological organisms with no artificial modifications. "The first demonstration," Dr. Chen announced, standing to address the assembly, "will showcase precision and power. Earth's oceans produced predators capable of striking with forces that exceed most energy weapons." She gestured to the first container, where a colorful crustacean waited in a miniature aquatic environment. To most observers, it looked like an elaborate decoration: rainbow-colored segments arranged in an aesthetically pleasing pattern around large compound eyes. "Odontodactylus cillaris," Dr. Chen announced, "commonly known as a mantis shrimp, though it's neither mantis nor shrimp. It's a stomatopod, representing a completely separate evolutionary branch." General Thane, still recovering from his encounter with Portia, leaned forward with professional interest. "What are its combat specifications?" The mantis shrimp strikes with specialized appendages at velocities approaching 24 meters per second, Dr. Chen explained calmly. The acceleration creates cavitation bubbles that produce secondary shock waves when they collapse. The total impact force exceeds 1,500 newtons. Commander Flux ran rapid calculations through his mechanical brain. That force rating equals the output of our standard battle servos, generated by a creature weighing less than 90 grams, Dr. Chen added. The arena floor reconfigured itself to accommodate aquatic combat, filling a section with Earth-normal seawater. A series of crystalline targets appeared at various distances, each one rated to withstand the impacts typical in galactic warfare. As the mantis shrimp was released into its element, Ambassador Plix voiced what everyone was thinking. Surely it cannot strike with such force underwater. Fluid resistance should limit impact velocity. The mantis shrimp moved to the center of its pool and oriented toward the nearest target. Its large compound eyes tracked the crystal formation with mechanical precision, calculating distance and angle with an accuracy that would make military targeting systems envious. Then it struck. The attack was too fast for most biological eyes to follow. Even the arena's high-speed cameras struggled to capture the motion, showing only a blur of movement followed by the spectacular destruction of the target. The crystal formation, rated to withstand military-grade explosives, shattered into fragments that sparkled as they settled to the pool floor. "Impossible," breathed Dr. Keth, her brain stalks writhing with scientific excitement. "The hydrostatic pressure should prevent such acceleration underwater. The mantis shrimp evolved in an environment where such strikes are routine survival tactics," Dr. Chen explained. "They hunt armored prey in confined spaces. Their neural systems can process visual information faster than most computer targeting arrays, and their strike mechanism has been perfected over hundreds of millions of years." The creature proceeded to demolish the remaining targets with methodical precision, each strike landing exactly where its eyes had focused moments before. The display of raw power combined with surgical accuracy left the galactic observers speechless. "The second demonstration," Dr. Chen continued, as the mantis shrimp was carefully returned to its container, "will showcase intelligence and adaptability." The arena floor reconfigured again, this time creating a complex maze of transparent tubes filled with seawater. Hidden throughout the structure were various puzzles, locks, and mechanical devices of galactic standard design. "Octopus vulgaris," Dr. Chen announced as the second container was opened. A cephalopod mollusk with distributed neural processing and manipulator appendages capable of independent operation. The octopus emerged from its transport in a flowing motion that seemed to defy physics. Its skin rippled through colors and patterns as it explored its new environment, and within seconds it had assumed the exact texture and coloration of the surrounding crystal surfaces. "Active camouflage?" General Thane's scales shifted to colors indicating deep concern. "With pattern matching and texture mimicry? Plus problem-solving abilities that rival most technological species," Dr. Chen confirmed. As if to demonstrate her point, the octopus encountered its first obstacle, a mechanical lock mechanism designed by the galaxy's finest engineers. The device required manipulation of multiple components in a specific sequence, a task that typically took trained technicians several minutes to complete. The octopus studied the lock for exactly 15 seconds, then extended 3 arms simultaneously. While one arm worked the primary mechanism, the other 2 manipulated secondary components, completing the entire sequence in under 30 seconds. "It solved a quantum-encrypted lock mechanism," Commander Flux reported in disbelief. "Without tools, technological interface, or prior exposure to galactic engineering principles." The octopus continued through the maze, solving each puzzle through what appeared to be pure deductive reasoning. It learned from each encounter, applying solutions from previous obstacles to new challenges. When it encountered a lock identical to the first one, it opened it in under 5 seconds. Distributed intelligence, Dr. Keth murmured, her scientific instruments tracking the creature's neural activity. Each appendage possesses independent processing capability while maintaining coordination with the central brain. It's like having multiple parallel computers working on the same problem. But the octopus saved its most impressive demonstration for last. At the maze's center waited a sealed container holding what appeared to be food. The container was secured inside a complex mechanical puzzle that required manipulation of 12 separate components in the correct sequence. The octopus examined the device for nearly a minute, its color patterns shifting through what Dr. Chen recognized as deep concentration. Then, instead of attempting the intended solution, it did something that shocked even the human delegation. It began dismantling the entire mechanism. Using its 8 arms with surgical precision, the octopus identified the structural weak points in the device and systematically removed components that weren't part of the puzzle at all. Within minutes, it had reduced the complex lock to its essential elements, then simply reached through the simplified structure to retrieve its reward. "It reverse-engineered our security system," Ambassador Krell 9 whispered, "then rebuilt it to better suit its needs." "Problem-solving through environmental manipulation," Dr. Chen confirmed. "Earth's predators don't just adapt to challenges, they modify the challenges to suit their capabilities." As the octopus was returned to its aquatic environment, Supreme Arbiter Zexthul materialized in the arena via quantum projection. His energy form pulsed with what might have been apprehension. "These demonstrations suggest individual capabilities that exceed many of our species' best warriors," he observed. "But warfare involves coordination, strategy, and collective action. Surely Earth's creatures cannot match the organizational sophistication of technologically advanced civilizations." Dr. Chen smiled with the expression that had become familiar to the galactic representatives over the past few days. "That brings us to our final demonstration. May I present the most successful warriors in Earth's history, creatures that conquered their planet through pure organizational excellence." The arena floor transformed once more, creating a complex environment with multiple objectives scattered across various levels and platforms. Each objective was protected by defensive systems that required coordination between multiple individuals to overcome. The final container opened to reveal what appeared to be tiny, insignificant insects. The assembled representatives leaned forward to examine creatures that seemed even less threatening than the spider had initially appeared. "Apis mellifera," Dr. Chen announced. "Honeybees. Social insects that conquered Earth through collective intelligence and perfect organizational systems." "Bees?" General Thane's confusion was evident in his rapidly shifting scale colors. "You're demonstrating warfare with bees?" "I'm demonstrating the organizational principles that allowed Earth's smallest creatures to dominate territories larger than most galactic empires," Dr. Chen corrected. As the bees emerged into the arena, their behavior initially seemed chaotic and random. Individual insects flew in seemingly arbitrary directions, investigating different aspects of the environment without apparent coordination. "They appear confused and disorganized," observed Ambassador Vex. "How does this demonstrate military capability?" "Watch more carefully," Dr. Chen suggested. "What you're seeing is reconnaissance and intelligence gathering." Within minutes, the apparent chaos resolved into something far more sophisticated. Individual bees began returning to a central point, engaging in complex aerial maneuvers that Dr. Chen explained were information transfer protocols. "Each scout is reporting the location, nature, and requirements of the objectives they've discovered," she translated. "They're creating a complete tactical picture of the battlefield through collective intelligence." Then the real demonstration began. The bees organized themselves into specialized units, each group approaching different objectives with tactics perfectly suited to each challenge. Where brute force was required, they concentrated their numbers. Where precision was necessary, individual specialists took the lead while others provided support and coordination. They're communicating constantly, Dr. Keth observed, her instruments detecting high-frequency vibrations and chemical signals. Each individual is receiving and transmitting tactical updates in real time. Perfect information sharing, Commander Flux confirmed. No individual bee possesses complete knowledge of the operation, but the collective intelligence has complete situational awareness. The bees proceeded to systematically overcome every defensive system in the arena. They coordinated timing across multiple simultaneous objectives, adapted their tactics when initial approaches failed, and maintained perfect unit cohesion throughout the operation. But here's the truly remarkable part, Dr. Chen announced as the demonstration concluded. These bees have never seen these particular challenges before. They solved them using organizational principles evolved over millions of years of competition with other social insects. She gestured to her holographic display, which now showed complex diagrams of bee colony structures. A single hive contains up to 80,000 individuals, each specialized for different roles but capable of adapting to changing requirements. They can reorganize their entire society within hours to meet new challenges. Adaptive social engineering, Supreme Arbiter Zexthul mused. Collective intelligence with perfect information flow and unlimited organizational flexibility. And this is just one of thousands of social insect species on Earth, Dr. Chen added. Each one represents millions of years of evolutionary refinement in collective warfare tactics. The assembled representatives sat in stunned silence as the implications became clear. Earth hadn't just produced individual warriors capable of defeating advanced technology through biological superiority. It had produced entire classes of organisms that had solved organizational challenges that plagued galactic civilizations. Ambassador Krell 9 was the first to voice what everyone was thinking. If these are the small creatures of Earth, what are humans capable of? Dr. Chen stood and faced the assembly with the patient confidence of a species that had learned to think like every predator on their planet. Humans represent the synthesis of all these capabilities. We have the individual problem-solving abilities of octopi, the organizational skills of social insects, and the persistence of endurance predators. But our real advantage is that we learn to recognize and counter the tactics of all Earth's other warriors. You're saying humans can think like all these creatures simultaneously? General Thane asked, his scales displaying colors that indicated a level of respect that bordered on fear. We learn to think like prey and predator, individual and collective, because that's what survival required on Earth, Dr. Chen confirmed. Every human carries the accumulated tactical knowledge of 4 billion years of evolutionary warfare. Supreme Arbiter Zexthul pulsed with what the universal translators interpreted as profound contemplation. The Galactic Council must consider how this information affects our understanding of Earth's place in galactic civilization. We're not seeking dominance, Dr. Chen assured the assembly. We're offering partnership. Earth's evolutionary heritage makes us excellent problem solvers and strategists. But we recognize that every species brings unique advantages to galactic civilization. What does Earth want? Ambassador Krell 9 asked directly. Dr. Chen smiled. What any successful predator wants: a stable territory, reliable resources, and the respect of our neighbors. We've spent 4 billion years learning to coexist with creatures far more dangerous than anything in this galaxy. We think we can manage peaceful cooperation with species who achieved intelligence through social development rather than competitive evolution. As the arena floor returned to its normal configuration and the various Earth specimens were carefully secured in their transport containers, the galactic representatives began the complex process of updating their entire understanding of military capability, evolutionary development, and the nature of intelligence itself. The combat trials would continue, but with new categories that recognized different types of strength. The ranking systems would be expanded to account for species that had never needed to develop technology because they had perfected biological solutions to every challenge. And in the margins of official reports and diplomatic communications, a new phrase began appearing in galactic languages: Earth-type analysis, meaning thorough, patient examination of problems from angles no one else had considered. The galaxy had learned to fear the quiet ones who watched, waited, and understood exactly how their opponents thought. Because sometimes, the most dangerous warriors were the ones who had spent 4 billion years learning to think like everyone else.